Welcome
That was well timed, actually. I completely ruined it by saying anything.
to our video. Hooray!
Hold on a second. Hold on. All right. Anyway. Oh my God! It's another one of these. December. DevQ.
Devsember.
Devsember. So what's January?
January.
Jan-Devuary and Feb-Devuary.
Yeah.
Then Devarch.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, we've done this series a couple of times now.
It honestly feels like we've done it more
Basically,
frequently than we should.
Well, we do it like once a month, which is a lot more frequently than other things we do on Saturdays. So, yeah. It's like every 4 videos, I guess. Every 3 on Saturdays.
It should be every 4. I'm just saying it does feel like we've done them more often. It doesn't feel like we do them more often because this is only the 3rd one. Either way, we are in fact doing it, and I would just... So this is, I mean, I guess we'll have to explain it briefly again. It's the Dev Q&A article, or the page on the wiki, and we'll just thank the guy who made it. We are still waiting on a response from him.
Yeah.
Which means, I mean, he could be watching this, and if you didn't see that we did respond, we would like to talk to you. I tried to make that not sound threatening.
Yeah.
Did it anyway? So this is a collection.
We were like, oh hell yeah!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But just in case he's forgotten or didn't see our response. Anyway, so this is just a collection of responses from questions asked during their dev streams that they do every Thursday and Friday, and it's up to date for what they did in December. But because it was December. Well, I mean, it's not the only month where they take breaks, but because there was a break, it's a little bit less than usual, which is actually ideal. And we're going to try and be a little bit swifter anyway, unlike the last one. If I recall correctly, the last one was actually about 2.5 hours long, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
That was gross.
Was a bit much.
That was gross and draining. And we're going to make a concerted effort to also not take any time on ones that we've had very definitive answers for before, or just repeating stuff that we've seen before.
Yeah.
But it's our way of just delivering this information unto you, unto the many, the sprawling masses who have no idea what all this is. And
otherwise, it's on the Deep Rock Wiki.
Yeah.
It's actually the thing to find if you have no idea what you're looking for. But I don't actually remember how I found it.
Well, the problem is, I think if you look up the Deep Rock Wiki, you still get the original one. Like, there's 2. This is a new one, and I assume that the old one isn't updated anymore.
No, the old one doesn't get updated.
So you need to find this. And I don't know exactly how I can tell people exactly how they... I think I could just put a link to it in the description, actually. I think I will. That's probably fair.
Yeah.
And basically, there's things that we sort of take into account when doing this. I think the main one is sort of like that the guys who give these answers aren't necessarily at the very top, but then they are the spokesmen, essentially, for Ghost Ship, whether they like it or not. So we do have to take their comments with a certain amount of seriousness. Yeah. I think it's better, too, than to just, write them off.
They do still know what's going on.
Yeah. But it's better to take the answers seriously than to just write them off, I think. Because we're clamouring for any information we can get, that's why. We'll just take it all as fact.
Yeah.
We'll use our own judgment, and you should use our own judgment as well. Your own judgment.
Yeah.
But yeah, we start on the 2nd of December. This column is I think you can actually see this. Yeah, this column is suggestion, then we have a comment. Date isn't particularly important. Just know this is all from December 2022. So the suggestion is search bar for the wardrobe. And response was that they hopefully add something. Maybe not a search bar, but some way of organising the wardrobe. So the first part of that, or the search bar thing itself, I don't think they need an actual search bar. I don't know if it quite warrants that. But yeah.
Well, it's clearly it's some guy's solution to the problem of how bloated and unorganized and difficult finding specific cosmetics are being now in the wardrobe, which we kind of knew would occur and is occurring and will only get worse as more seasons come.
It's just
so it is good
though.
that they clearly, pretty much, yeah, it's just merely headgear.
Yeah.
But still.
The only other one is like paint jobs, but paint jobs is like they're quite distinct icons, and that's the only one that's even anywhere close to the number. I mean, it's not close to the number, but it's closest. A beard, actually, you know what? There's quite a few beards too. And in terms of organisation, I think it would be a good idea if they're not actually going to add any new categories or divide things in the way that they realistically should. They could at least have divisions in those categories where it's like what is like a hat or eyewear, but it's still in the same like category, and that could also potentially branch off into changes that we want eventually. But the beards, it's like you have normal beards. It would be like normal beards and like armored beards and gilded beards would be like 3 separate categories. You know, that kind of organisation.
Basically, they do seem they want to organise it out better, like lay it out better, so you can actually find it easily. Because they do also understand the fact that it is difficult to find what you want now in most of the sections. Like another area is victory moves. Very difficult to find your victory move, considering they all look the same, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, the victory move one's a bit weird, isn't it? Yeah, I think, to be honest, a search bar could work. I mean, I think implementing it would be weird, but it would be like, it would just be a search bar for
name.
Yeah, you would need to know the name, but the search bar would be like for everything. It would just find the thing you're talking about, and then you click it, and it just equips whatever that thing is in whatever slot it is. I thought about, well, how can it search across all different cosmetics? Well, it's like, sure it can. It just knows if you click on it.
Except
that's the thing you want.
It's not the name of things aren't always fluid. It would be kind of annoying to have to memorize all of the names of all the equipment and like cosmetics to actually be able to find them easily. Basically, they see that it's not perfect either, so they won't go that route. But I don't know. It's good to know that they know that customization's getting cluttered. It's pretty cool.
And that perhaps some changes need to be made.
Think anymore. Yeah, which they seem to be interested in making as well.
Right, good. Okay, it's a bit boring. Suggestion: mute game while in the background. Apparently, it sounds possible. So, do they mean literally mute in terms of audio? Because you could just turn it off.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, I don't know.
Do they mean like stop it from running while in the background?
I think it does just mean because when something's in the background, like when T-Prox's on the background, it just continue playing its sound, and it just doesn't want to. I guess the person doesn't want to hear that.
Yeah, but whatever. Just turn the volume off. I don't know. In game, the thing. Unless I'm missing something. Anyway, that's not the kind of thing I want to spend any kind of time on. And like next thing. Suggestion. Add randomized phases to the Omeran fight in Escort duty. Response to which was not opposed to the idea, but not sure when. The caretaker has shown that randomized phases can work in DRG. So yeah, that's good. I think. It's weird because the caretaker does, in a way, feel like an improvement, sort of directly. Indirect improvement on the Omeran. And it's kind of something that we just thought the Omeran should kind of just have. But yeah, I think I agree with them. It is actually a question of when. When would they do that? And is that ever going to feel like the most important thing to do? Because personally, I don't find it particularly important right now either. Yeah,
except that like you've got to acknowledge that they should still now, it's a priority.
Would you consider this viable for like a side edition, like the cave shapes?
Well, you remember when they added all the biomes or when they had the game modes, I'm not sure which one, they added the alternate dreadnoughts. That was the thing they did, right? That was just a side thing that they tacked on. That's what they had to do for this. Well, they would add on the side tacked of alternate randomized escort.
I want to call the dreadnoughts a side. Stages. It was more like a secondary part of that update. won't call it a side. That's
Sure,
curating whole
but
boss fights. This is smaller.
It doesn't have to be. It would be as significant. It would be adding to the pool of a boss fight in a game mode. I don't see how that isn't the exact same thing.
Because it's not necessarily making new enemies. Not making a whole new boss fight. It's adding to a single boss fight. Yeah, I mean, actually, I do think it should. I think one of our ideas is like the golem fella, be a little golem that you would create out of rocks, and it would just start walking around, and hitting you. It could have like a little mini boss that it would summon.
They would need to add more phases to then randomize.
Yeah, I think
like
it would be
at least 2 to 3 more.
It wouldn't actually be that hard in terms of logistics. It would just sort of just be add 2 more, and also keep it how it is in that it's phases 2 and 4, which have the
Omeran. 4 do Omeran interaction.
Yeah, and if you have a selection of 6, that would actually be quite
varied. And 1 and 3 should have alternate types of swarms, because for now it's just swarm. It's just, the normal pool of swarm. But maybe if there was like the actual variant of swarms carried over to the game mode, you would have a lot more variety within that boss fight. But as they've kind of mentioned, there's no point in time where they can justify a point in time to add that, or like they can't just tack it on to a season anymore. That's not really how it works. And yeah, so this is the issue. Yeah, is that they don't know whether they do it, even though they should do it. They should do it just as much as when they added the alternate dreadnoughts. It's just as worthy as an addition, but they find it harder to do it now with how they've been doing stuff. Harder to justify improving old content than adding new ones in their new season format.
I don't think it's because that doesn't happen anymore. It's just a bit more sidelined. I compare it to, I think they would do it now more as an addition along the lines of when they added new cave shapes in season 3. Is that there's always a little something, and it can occupy that slot. So in my opinion, it's not a question of when. It's just a question of, is there anything else in that slot for the next season?
Well, clearly is a question of when, because the only thing they suggest as to why it wouldn't happen is because of when. They don't know when they're going to do it, because they also recognise that it would be more than that. It would be actual quite a bit of content that would need to be worth doing.
Well, a Hearthstone themed season, that would do it. Moving on.
Sure.
Yeah. Suggestion: more variety to machine events. No plans, but would be nice. It's always a question of adding more machine events versus adding something else. Ooh. Okay. Well, personally, I'm not clamoring for more machine events, but I don't know if I like their answer that much on principle. Where it's like, what?
Well, it's just what's wrong with new machine events?
Nothing.
It's a very important part of the game, right? It is the key, though. The machine events are the key to end game content.
It's also something that's had about as much variety as it needs.
What for the last 2 years? How long have we had them for?
Yeah, but it's I don't see why. I think for the people who are still unlocking stuff, they probably don't have a problem with the variety of machine events if they're still getting actual content from them. And then someone like me, doesn't care at all because they don't mean as much anymore. So I feel like there's sort of the two sides of people who actually can do machine events. They're either engaged in actually getting the rewards with it already in something that already has decent variety, or they just have nothing to gain from them anyway. But that is another one where it's they could just add one machine event just as a little side. I mean, but it wouldn't be that small, and I think they'd rather spend more time on it. I just don't like the idea that they couldn't just do something.
Well, they'd rather spend their time doing something else.
Because
that's what they're saying with this. Is that we see the appeal to more machine events, but we're not going to do it. We'd rather do something else. That's what they're saying with this, which I think, I don't know. It's just another part of my issue with always new things, the old stuff. Which I think machine events are a very important part of the game that could do with a couple more things, like 2 more to alternate it. Like it wouldn't be a bad shout. It's machine events. They are incredibly important to the game. Like
yeah, and then
almost as important as the actual missions themselves.
It just piles on to the overarching. It just piles onto the overarching problem of team content stopping them from doing what actually needs to be done. Basically, doesn't it? That's literally it. It's a pretty clear issue. It doesn't sound like they want to do it necessarily, but it sounds like it's stopping them from doing it if they wanted to, and that's not right.
It's just I think it's just it encourages brand new content way more than it encourages just adding on to older stuff. Like there is a reason why the new cave generation was really just slipped under the radar. Like I if anything, I'm actually surprised how much they did push it, and that they even mentioned it in the narrated trailer. But like that kind of content is not something they give enough of a shit about to do and say, but they don't care enough. As important as it is,
they still do it, but they don't prioritize it anymore.
Machine events, which means even the like other and randomized.
Exactly, it's not a priority anymore, which means it's even harder to choose which of those things they should be working on.
Yeah, and it then is then a question of them just then taking resources away from each other. So there's going to be less new stuff because they spend some on the improved older stuff, and it's just going to make both worse instead of focusing entirely on one. Although I don't think they should focus entirely on new stuff. I think we have had enough new stuff.
Would you
with the new enemy types and all the new stuff like that?
Do you think it would have been a viable solution here if they had made, say, the rival signal event a machine event?
I think it wouldn't be a bad shout to maybe just try and intertwine some of the older stuff, because the only events are very loose.
Is because it doesn't have like the 4 buttons to push. It has 3 corners to break instead. But it's just like I think it could still just be a machine event, and like I don't, it's not very clear how the machine events work lore-wise, and it never was. And let's be honest, it's not particularly clear why there's any rival tech left anyway. So they could just have a quarantine zone next to it.
The only thing the machine events have in common is that it's like abandoned tech that was built to harvest Hoxies. Like that's really the only thing they have in common, really. And even then, like the Omran Tower doesn't really harvest Hoxies. It just kills the enemies in the area.
Yeah, but I like the idea because the rival signal event is probably the closest, where it's the most like, those things are kind of like mini games, or at least unique experiences unto themselves. So like, it's like the data deposit, that is just fighting off waves of enemies. The Omen is a unique fight. Curse Light enemies
you've especially got to
are kind of generic, but
Curse Light and Ebonite is definitely what they have done. What they have actually done with the new events, considering like they just give you XP and currency. That's it. That's all they do. They don't do anything like special or anything unique like once the season actually passes, which is immediately just going to make the seasonal events feel less valuable than machine events.
I agree, but I sort of like the idea of there being multiple categories of events, rather than maybe it's better that they don't just pile it all into machine events, and having these seasonal events be repurposed is a good way to have other random events that you can come across. Maybe they don't all need to be machine events. I feel like there's variety in events.
Yeah, sure, but I feel like they could do with changing some rewards on them, make them a bit more interesting than just currency.
Yeah, but we'll have to see what they do with, like, say, the meteorite. I mean, you know, I like for example, I don't see. I actually small meter is one that I can see actually not carrying over. Actually, for example,
What do
but
you
like
mean?
when it comes to what they do with the current events, the season 3 events,
It's just gonna make the play cards worth currency and XP.
No, I just mean if there'll be any
just-
difference in implementation, because especially, I mean, this is getting into territory that is not currently relevant. It's just with a meteorite coming down from the atmosphere when we're in a time when the rock box is gone. Anyway,
The
that's a completely
meteorite
different
will
discussion.
still be overhead from now on. They're gonna do the same thing they did with the robots. They're just gonna say that's not our biggest threat anymore and move on. And so it doesn't fuck around with the law like that. Like it's just it's simple. It's the same thing they did with the robots. They didn't think about it beforehand, and now they're just gonna have to ignore it. It's gonna be the exact same thing. So it's not really worth thinking about.
Well, that's also better because that means the meteorite doesn't have to be removed because it doesn't make sense. I'd rather it stayed, so that's not a big problem. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't think I agree with most of this on principle, but I don't think machine events are in a particularly desperate position. Native support.
And how they aren't.
What? You what?
Well, there's 4 of them, and there hasn't been like anything added in like 2 years towards them. And they're in a very important part of the game. They definitely deserve content more than adding new stuff. They should, if their scales is machine events or some adding something else, machine events should weigh more and be more important.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I just don't feel it at all, but I agree. Suggestion: native support for 5+ players. Probably not. It's a lot of work, plus there'll be a lot of UI jank that's acceptable for mod, but not for visual content. Well, I agree with the reasoning, and it's also a 4-player game. The only reason having more than 4 players would work if there was more than 4 classes. So it kind of just stops there. Yep. Yep. Suggestion: stream viewer voting for events. There's a mod for that, and it's probably more advanced than something they'd make. That's a bit weird. I don't care too much about the feature, but
What?
I don't see why a mod would be more advanced than what they would make.
Well, if like someone makes some more purely for that fact and that ability, it probably would end up being better than what Ghost Ship could slap together while working on other things.
Yeah, it's like it's just a bit weird. Like why would they cater to in-game features that are just for streamers? Really? A bit weird.
Yeah.
So I don't really care about that. Suggestion. Common one, of course. Overclock additions to existing weapons. It's possible. They have some prototypes. Well, obviously it's possible. It's also It is weird to note that it hasn't happened yet. I would see there'd be no question as to why it wouldn't be possible. But it's not like they've ever added overclocks before onto an existing selection. But obviously we know that from this we do know that they make them just kind of casually, or there was a time when they just made a bunch of prototypes. And we also know, we'll learn later on in this video, that they are going to be they're going to do that at some point, probably this year. So that's all good. Although it is interesting to note that the prototypes, I believe, are for season 3 or 2 or 1. I don't know. For one of those, I remember being a point actually for season 1 that there'll probably be more overclocks for existing weapons. So it's actually something they've been working on for a while, to be fair. New overclocks, which is how it should be. It should just be something they're generally just working on, because those are good additions that kind of need to start actually happening. No comment?
Yep.
Okay. Oh boy, here we go. Suggestion: melee weapons. The game is built around having to keep distance away from enemies. Short answer: probably no. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that for the most part. I don't really feel the need for melee weapons. I like the implementation of certain things.
Melee agree towards it.
Right, you're going to have to repeat that. I did not catch that. I was like garbled.
I agree that melee weapons shouldn't be in the game, but their justification for it is flawed. In that they have a mod for drills that make it do more melee damage. power attacks, short range weapons. Like that's just wrong. It's just wrong. The game isn't inherently built to keep distance away from enemies.
Not inherently, but the close range stuff, and specifically the melee stuff, is not front and center. A shooter. That's more on principle. That the game, by it being a first-person shooter, means you're around keeping distance because that's just how it is. But yeah, I mean, melee weapons, I have no want or see no need for them as actual parts of your arsenal. But I would like to see more stuff, perhaps like stuff that is tied to in-game activities, like the pickaxe overcharge sprinkler, perhaps more advanced though, like something you can call down for a specific activity, like a melee weapon, like a big hammer, some nonsense. But yeah, I don't think they'll ever do anything beyond that, beyond the pickaxe.
Right.
It's just the pickaxe. Although I like to see him do more with the pickaxe though, obviously. Yeah. So this is a slightly weird one, I think, in terms of the wording of the suggestion, or just the idea of the suggestion. It says boss fight for Season 3. I'll say the response first. No, the meteor showers were added because they saw some flaws in how the warning and large meteorites interacted. So I don't know how any of this sort of ties together, to be honest. Because that answer doesn't seem particularly relevant, and it's also someone asking for a boss fight for Season 3. So I don't know what to say. I would say I'd like to see a boss fight for Season 4. And at the same time, okay, we can probably talk about their answer more than the actual suggestion. The meteor shards were added because they saw some flaws in how the warning and large meteorites interacted. So that's actually reasoning they're giving for small meteor. Their own reasoning beyond the meme.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And I agree with it, I think. It sounds kind of weird because I don't see why you couldn't have the large meteorites in the lift phage outbreak warning. I don't see
but
why
they
not.
they kind of decided that would be the case, and then realized that it's not the best, so they added the mini meteors, the meteor shower.
It does definitely feel like the right way round. I'll give them that. I don't necessarily see the exact logic, but it feels right that it would just be the small ones in those. Because the spikes are the big meteors. So it feels right, but I don't necessarily see perfect logic there either. I don't. Suggestion: frog hat. How many games even have frog hats? Probably quite a few.
Probably is a couple, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how would you even get a frog hat? Because this is, to be fair to Ghost Ship, just a frog hat.
That sounds like a holiday hat.
But what holiday? It would be a holiday hat. That's the thing. Holiday. Exactly. You wouldn't just get this randomly. What do you say?
Frog holiday.
Frog holiday. I mean, you could do it for summer if you wanted, but yeah. They don't actually just add joke stuff as official, not official, but as proper cosmetics. They don't. Even though there's some silly stuff, there's no just teddy bear on your head that's in the performance pass. You don't get that, and so I'll give them credit there. They don't. Yeah, frog hat. Great. Suggestion: sabotage, industrial sabotage with one shield generator. They don't think so. The mission flow becomes lopsided with just one generator. It is quite a popular suggestion that maybe and I think they are taking it on board because I think they are obviously aware of the response to industrial sabotage as a mission. And I think we also know that they tried to do this anyway, and it just didn't quite work.
I saw a little bit of the dev stream, I think yesterday, and literally even the developer, or Jacob, didn't want to do a industrial sabotage. He kind of just got it for his promotion mission. It was nah, it's some other mission, and it was okay. Even they don't really want to do it. But,
they need to They need to find a way for it to be just the caretaker. Basically,
the issue is that's exactly what this their response was talking about. the flow of the mission becomes lopsided with one generator, in that like it becomes more boss fight than to work towards boss fight.
I know,
which would be
but I
true.
think that is what people want. Kind of.
Yeah,
I think it would be better. I
because
think people would
nobody
find it better that way.
likes the beginning bit.
Mm.
Like, no one wants to stick around and do this stupid bloody hacking, connecting stuff. It's, I don't know. I mean, there's not much sabotage that people want to do, and I do agree with them. It's a bit much. But yeah, I don't know.
It is at the point where to make it good for everyone, they would just have to completely rework it. And at this point, considering what they've tried already, it feels kind of bad. But there's chance that the best option is to just leave it at this point, because it's not like they haven't tried.
Yeah,
and they have tried. It just doesn't seem to work.
Really,
it's inherent. That's the problem.
Really, yeah. The issue is though is that leaving it in the game makes the game worse, because most people don't like it in the game, and it makes everything miserable. And whenever they see it, they're like, "Oh, come on!"
Yeah, if they're going to leave it in assignments, they do need to make it more pleasant to play. They kind of just do, actually.
Yeah, like people will stop playing the game because of salvage being in the game and being like
salvage.
What it is. And that will.
Oh, do you mean that, or are you slipping up? Okay, yeah.
I just read sabotage wrong. Like, yeah, sabotage in the game. Because I mean, I already feel it with bloody escort duty. I see escort duty the exact same way. In fact, if anything, I prefer sabotage to escort duty.
I do as well.
But they're basically the same thing. A bloated drain of a mission that doesn't reward you. Because actually, even if it did reward you enough from it, I still wouldn't care. It's not really about the rewards, it's about the experience in the mission, and the experiences in the missions are just not that pleasant. With sabotage having a little bit of a positive that the caretaker is a better boss fight than the Omron. That's really it. It's just, I don't know, yeah. I don't know. I think they need to realize that becomes lopsided if that means the boss fight is taking up too much of a percentage in the mission. That isn't a negative thing. That's a positive. And they need to nut up and sort it out.
Yeah, I think they need to do that, and also maybe just make the caretaker easier, because I think especially for new players, it just kind of throws them off, and it might just be too strong to be a normal mission. I don't know. It's very strange to sort of to navigate in my head, but I do think they need to address it again. Actually, in some way, because of how unpopular it is. Yeah, a bit annoying.
Yeah, it is making the game worse by being in the game.
And I didn't think that was actually possible. Well, it's making the game worse by having it being assignments.
I guess, yeah, but only because you could ignore it before. Does bad. Yeah. If anything, it's better now than it's ever been. But you just could ignore it in the past, and that's why people could forgive its existence. And I think that's not good. Like, you know, all the content in the game should be there at face value, and you should be able to play them all fluidly. And the solution shouldn't be remove it out of rotation so nobody sees it. If that's the case, they never should have added it to the game in the first place. The solution should be make it fun, make it fluid, which I don't think Sabotage is the only game mode that sort of honed in on. So, yeah, they need to do something about this. It's not an optional thing at this point. The future of the game does depend on it.
Okay, yeah, probably. Suggestion: Lithophage outbreak on elite deep dives. I like that because that's almost acknowledging that it probably should only be on elite deep dives. Might happen. They didn't because they ran out of time before season 3 release, which is a bit odd because.
Pardon?
What that indicates to me is that first of all, that it was going to be in deep dives from the start, unlike I think Rival Presence was actually. But this is the thing about Lithophage Outbreak. In the context of a deep dive, it means you would have, if it was just a warning still, it means you would have 3 primary objectives. But if it was just made, like if it was in a deep dive and it was just the other objective, then that's just the same as doing a normal Lithophage Outbreak mission. So once again, the implementation of Lithophage Outbreak is just causing a whole bunch of weird nonsense. And
I'm kind of caught on to the fact that they ran out of time before season 3 release. In the 6 months wasn't enough time for season 3. And in all fairness, technically it was 5 months for them since they took a month off, so I guess there is that. But that is something that I can't get my head around. Alright, moving on.
okay. Suggestion: more religious imagery for season 4. They probably don't want to add explicit religious imagery from real life. Yeah. Also, what do you mean? What does it mean? More? Yeah. Huh? Eggs? I don't know. I don't know quite what they're referring to, unless I'm missing something really obvious. Because I can't point to anything that is like directly religious imagery. You know? So I don't know what that's all about. Also, I guess probably not necessary. Explicit religious imagery. Yeah, I mean, they don't need to add religious imagery from the real world. A dwarven religious imagery, however. I want to know who the dwarves worship. What's his name? Aule. Okay. Okay. Suggestion: more lore. They prefer to stay more open-ended in terms of storytelling. Yep, that is true. I just want to call it... No, it is storytelling, but not in the traditional sense, because it is, Tyler. You might refute that, but it is. But it's not. It's not like a story written out in the traditional sense. Okay. But a suggestion of more lore isn't going to be unanswered. There will always be more lore. Not more answers. Just...
Exactly. That's what we need. Like, there is no reason why they couldn't, like, tie up some knots for the robots moving on. Right?
The robots, I agree, but I don't think it's ever going to be that, like, surprising.
You know, theorizing and talking about it, which is cool and all. That sounds like there should be more theorizing. But theorizing is only really satisfying when you know you're going to get an answer, but they never will, because that will put an end to the theorizing. So it's just a vicious cycle of wasting everyone's time. Except Ghost Ship, their time's not being wasted because they're not thinking about it.
I don't think you're wrong, but that's definitely a cynical view, even if it's objectively true. And I just don't think most people necessarily feel that. They'll have theorized for a little bit for fun, and they'll probably just forget about it.
And then they'll just have a head, which is clearly what Ghost Ship likes. It likes people basically just having a headcanon, and that is right. Which is, I think it's more of a me thing, that I prefer that actually being a correct answer.
Because I personally accept it, because the game doesn't have a straightforward story anyway. That the implementation of that is never going to be, like, you know, presented well in game. It can't really just do... The game doesn't have, like, a campaign. It's only if those answers are really only ever going to be in writing. And in that way, it just won't mean a lot. It won't feel particularly impactful, even if it's a very surprising answer. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind it just in writing, and that's the only way that they would do it. Because it's like, you know, what the answer to what the rivals actually are, how is that going to be an in-game thing that they would want it to be, but it wouldn't be, because it's just an answer to a question. It's a little bit abstract. And also, it works for some things more than it does for others. Like, it works for Carl more than it works for pretty much anything else. But that's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Suggestion: more robot companions like Bosco. Not for solo. Bosco has a very special role in the game. If they needed new functionality for solo, they'd probably give it to Bosco. So yeah, I agree with that for more companions like Bosco. Because if they mean by like Bosco something that you bring into the mission inherently, I agree with that. And I think they know that, because obviously you could consider Doretta a robotic companion, but she serves a very specific purpose in a specific scenario. Same with Haxi. So we always get stuff like that. So they're aware of the distinction.
Yeah.
But as
feel
a
like
piece
the
of
expression is
of a
also-
class's kit, though, that would be more interesting. You know?
Well,
Like some-
next question. That
Yeah. Bring Bosco to multiplayer as a pet. No, Bosco wasn't made with multiplayer in mind. Some of the features just don't work in multiplayer. I generally agree. In terms of bringing Bosco, and also they're right about the mechanics that he has inherently, like how reviving would work and stuff like that. Just doesn't make a great deal of sense in multiplayer. For Bosco, still a fan of the idea of finding like an infected Bosco, and it would just, you would revive it, and you would kill the parasite. It would be like another Betsy thing. That's how I think they should do that. Not bringing him though. That's fine to be against that. Suggestion: pick up and throw maggots. Seriously. That's an important part of that. Could be fun. Stuff like loot bugs and maggots is intentionally kept very simple so as to not affect performance. Bit of a weird answer, but yeah, they're just sort of trivial little fellas. They don't need to have really mechanics tied to them. But you know, throwing maggots, why not? As long as it doesn't take too much time. They don't seem to care though, and it wouldn't be that important. Just throwing maggots. Throwing the magma maggots though would be pretty funny, because that might just be
actually useful.
Yeah, but you know, apart from that, it is a pointless thing. So if it got added, it'd be funny, but not needed. Okay, Twitch drops. Might happen at some point. No plans in the near future, basically. They're not necessarily against it. Simple as that. Don't really care about Twitch drops. Do you actually know exactly what Twitch drops are?
I think so.
So in-game unlocks. It would be like cosmetics that you unlock from watching like Twitch.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cop out. It's a weird thing that games do to pretend to interact with the community.
It's also, I think it's a big like sort of claim that Ghost Ship has, is that they have a lot of different ways of obtaining cosmetics, and aside from paid DLC, it's just all in game directly. And I think they probably want to. I would recommend that they stay with that, because it's a good bonus.
Plus,
in my opinion.
the Twitch like zeitgeist isn't big enough to warrant Twitch drops either. Really, like there's never really more than like a couple hundred people on Twitch. Meanwhile, other games that do Twitch drops are sitting in like Ks, 20Ks, and it's just it'd be pretty hard to
Halo Infinite does Twitch drops. But you know, they'd have, I don't know, I guess they just have the production value.
Yeah, they could pump money into Twitch drops.
That's like a Microsoft thing, isn't it? They'd be like, you got to Twitch, yeah, promotion. Okay, fine, we'll do that then. But yeah.
Well, it would be a lot out of Ghost Ship to actually decide to do Twitch drops. And then
exactly, because of they are just much smaller. Suggestion: overclocks for utility / traversal tools. Never. We might as well not even talk about it then. I still think it could be alleviated by being able to, like, the problem could still be alleviated by being able to see teammates' stuff. And obviously, you know, you wouldn't have this problem with new classes or whatnot. I think it's, I said this on to Jacob, actually, via a comment. I didn't talk to him. On Thursday stream, was just like, I think the reason that people want to see that stuff is because they want to see what you can do. Because it's cool when you always do a good job when you have to come up with new equipment. So I still don't like the fact that they're just completely locking it off. And I never will like that.
This is the hardest.
But they are definitely
really
saying no. It's just never gonna happen.
This is never. Like, at no point in time ever.
But I agree with
Just
it. But the thing is, I agree with it more for the overclocks than. Like, I actually think I agree with that, but I still believe in adding more tools.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously that eventually they're gonna not have a choice.
They're not gonna have a choice.
Adding.
They're gonna have to either do this, add new tools, or new class. That's gonna have to happen at some point. It just will.
Yeah.
And if they don't do it at some
Either
point,
that,
it's gonna have
or
a
they
nice...
stop. They stop working on the game. It will get to that point.
Yeah.
Like deep down in the future, there'll be no other options.
They definitely think it's more like deeply ingrained in the DNA of the game than it actually is. But this is the one thing that I'm very confident they're not quite in the right headspace for, as something that they've already decided upon. Anyway. Here's that other thing. A suggestion about new overclocks and old guns again, but now it's definitely at some point. It's not sure when yet. Unfortunately, not sure when yet doesn't mean it could technically still be in the next update.
Yeah, they have no idea still, especially not then. Like
no,
in December, like they're definitely working on Overclock.
Yeah,
right
you look
now.
at the fact that they've made some prototypes and that they've acknowledged like the one, and there is definitely a big one. It's very much so a sensible and obvious move. So I think we'll see that this year, to be honest. But
yeah, not many other things we could see. So, and definitely considering we get met with the hardest no ever with the traversal tools before it, and then that's probably the hardest yes we can ever get from these guys.
Yeah, it's also it's always sort of been the plan technically. It's not like they ever refuted the idea that the overclock system would be expanded upon. I think when they originally introduced it, it was more implied that there was going to be more of a drip feed sense where they would add them quite regularly. But I think they just got things priority shifted, and then up until the point where they were adding new guns, which absolutely satisfied that need. But when you think, a year on from when the last set of guns was added, we're going to want new overclocks by then. I mean, already do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to happen, and that's a good thing. Need to take a quick drink. Well, okay, but I guess we've already covered this. More advanced melee combat. No plans. Now, it is slightly different to like melee weapons. I don't think they need more advanced melee combat in terms of the mechanics of melee combat. I still just want to see more pickaxe upgrades though. And that would make melee combat more interesting. But they don't need to actually add to like, you don't need to add like dwarves like punching and kicking, like choke slamming glyphids, although you should. But the actual mechanics of melee don't need to be... What?
Yeah.
Did you say...
Suplex.
Oh yeah, suplexing.
If you hold melee behind a glyphid, you suplex animation them like a finishing move.
Stomping should be a thing.
You don't need anything like that, but also
stomping should be a thing.
Maybe.
Or at least that's a good idea that I think maybe overrides that. Suggestion: rock pops glowy bits coloured like Christmas lights. Apparently, would be cool. I guess that I think that is supposed to be like a Christmas suggestion, right? Where it's not like don't just make the rock pops glow. I think it's to make them look like Christmas lights for Christmas. Yeah, I think this was like but that's just a silly little thing that wouldn't be worth.
Hold on.
That would be a mod as well, probably.
You look at all right. Moving on because there's not much to say about this, but the next one's actually really fucking interesting.
I know. Yeah. We'll talk about this actually. Let's do that. Suggestion: armor/weapon skins for holiday events. Not out of the question, but we'll see. I mean,
we know
what
that is a yes, because that's what they did, right? In the next next week, they did the exact same. They did the exact thing. They did armor and weapon skins. Well, actually, didn't really do weapon skins, did they? They added armor for the holiday events. So that, not out of the question, but we'll see, is him knowing damn well that it's being added to the game, and they already have it there.
It's also the good thing about that idea, well, not the good thing. The thing they need to know is that that can be in place of the headgears, or at least it should be. They should just do that, even if people are like, "Where are my silly headgears?" It's just like, no, this is better. Trust us.
One would. But yeah. So I don't know. It's just interesting how something that was such a hard yes, like we know that it was the answer to that is yes because they've done it. That is their response. Not out of the question, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Which tells us,
it's
anything
also
that's similar to that.
well, yeah. I mean, it's already started. In like the skins category, like the paint jobs is what I want to see more because that's armor/weapon paint jobs. So because we already actually this, I think it's pre-Christmas. Either way, but obviously we got the pickaxe paint job, and that started to happen. Although it's a bit more tucked away than armor or weapon paint jobs, but I hope that that's them moving towards that. I just don't want them to increase the amount that they're doing for the holidays, especially in the cosmetics department. We're kind of convinced they're just going to start adding more anyway in terms of activities. But if they understand that they don't need to create headwear plus any other types, that they can just do different cosmetics, that'd be fine. I just hope they get that. I just hope. Right.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Suggestion. New perks or usage for perk points. They'll probably do something with the perk system at some point. Wow. I mean, obviously, that's been consistently the kind of answer they've given, which is like for a while now, and on so many occasions, that's what's convinced us that that's coming. What?
Even Reapy Ron, I think just today, posted a video about
I think that was
perks.
yesterday. I'm yet to watch it though. I will watch that.
Maybe.
Probably should.
He didn't say anything of worth, the normal. But it's just more that, everyone's talking about perks and perk points and that we kind of could do with perks and that come on, go ship perks, stuff like that. It's just
based on their wording, I do think this is actually good because obviously we kind of get what a lot of their wording means, but they're talking about the perk system as well, not just the idea of adding new perks.
Very often, their answers, when it's like people are asking for like more perks, they often do bring up the system, like just on their own thing. I obviously hear like when they're going to tackle perks, it's going to be a lot more than just adding a couple more. It's going to be a rework. It's definitely what they seem like they're pointing towards, and the fact that they know that may mean they've already started doing it, or thinking about it at the very minimum.
I hope so. Perks is definitely something that they could just, if I was working at Ghost Ship, I'd just be writing down ideas. I'm sure that kind of stuff happens. I think they probably do just throw ideas at the wall constantly and have like build up of them. It just depends on what they decide to start working on and when. I'm sure they have plenty of ideas.
They do for Overclocks. I think that's how they've accumulated a bunch of prototypes for them. But I'm not sure about perks. They didn't really seem like they've shown that much interest in making more new perks. They just recognise that the perk system needs to be adjusted.
Yeah.
Which it seems like we're going to be getting soon.
Something to do with perks will happen within the next... Well, something.
Yeah.
Once again, probably this year. Suggestion: more death video series. They'd like to do art showcases for every anniversary stream. That's a weird answer. I wouldn't call it a cop-out answer because they should have just said that's what we do in place of that now. Because they used to do just like death vlogs, and I think that was pre them doing the regular streams and also pre them doing the anniversary streams. But I think together that's the answer. Is that it's just shifted now. Although it was nice seeing them in the office working in those old videos. But obviously it's not something, it would just be it's something nice, but it's not necessarily something needed. And we get a lot of that. We do get a lot of that out of blah, blah, blah. We do get a lot out of those anniversary streams. Suggestion: April Fool's event. Don't think so. It's kind of a lot of work for one day, but they also wouldn't tell us if they were going to do an April Fool's event. Well, I'm just going to take that seriously, like they're not joking because it's April Fool's. In that, yeah, it wouldn't be worth it, but not many of them are worth it, even now. But obviously, April Fool's would be weird. No comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, April Fool's. But like, I don't know, give the Glyphids googly eyes for the day. Suggestion: bind different keys to active perks. What the hell is that answer? Probably not planned. What is that? That's probably not planned. If that is the actual wording used, that is like just weird. This doesn't. Isn't that what you would say if you were like being like coy, like trying to hide something? Right?
Well, because a fuck around with the key bindings of perks would be due. That would definitely.
Yeah, I mean that
'Cause
would be part of
obviously-
changing the perk systems. Yeah.
So, I think
It
it
should
could be on
probably
the table
happen.
more than they're suggesting.
Oh, that wording just seems cheeky to me. Also, it probably should be done just to make that system more malleable, and flexible to allow for more different perks. Update UI elements and menus. No direct plans, but who knows? Menus all look fine. UI elements are fine, and it all works well. The only thing is that you use a cursor on console, but I'm at the point where I prefer that, to be honest, instead of just cycling through tabs on with the stick. I think the cursor works, especially in this game. Makes more sense to me. So you know what? There's nothing wrong with the UI, and yeah. Suggestion: report infections on Space Rig to management. Maybe there should be a complaint box somewhere that leads straight to the trash exhaust tubes. I love that idea. And as long as it's not too much work, sure. Especially if we get a sequel to the Rockpox, that'd be funny.
Well, there's like they put it like right next to the giant window, and you can interact with it, and you just see like a piece of paper fly straight out into space. Like every time you do it, like you can just watch as your complaint disappears into space. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny. So that'd be a nice, just funny Miscellaneous Space Rig edition, which they do a lot of. Expand the topmost part of the space rig. It's not a priority for the company, but who knows? Yeah, I don't think there's any need to see more of the space rig. I think a lot of people would like to see, like, I don't know, the mess hall. But I do think when it comes to adding more parts to the space rig, there needs to be an explicit reason. For the gameplay, everything that's needed is there. So I wouldn't say the space rig is missing anything. But in terms of like the reality of it, there is a lot more to see. But we see everything we need to see at the moment. Yeah. Suggestion: update the tutorial. No plans to do that. The idea is to introduce the concept to the existing tutorial and let people figure it out from there, which is absolutely fine, except that you should be able to choose which class you play the tutorial as, and it should change slightly depending on the class. I think that should be done. It's just weird that it forces you to play just that class, the tutorial. It's because it makes it feel more like, oh, is that just the guy? I don't quite understand. I feel like it possibly causes some confusion. But you know what? I don't know if that's 100% needed, but that's a change I would suggest. In general, though, I agree with that on principle. People should just be able to figure it out after what the tutorial gives you. God, okay. Suggestion: mission chain where Carl sacrifices himself. They'd be able to do that if that was what actually happened, but who knows? Also, this guy's basically suggesting like a campaign or like a narrative assignment that takes place in the past. So already that's not going to happen. But I think Carl is one of the lore elements that works best with us not having an answer, because he's literally just meant to be a dwarven legend or a dwarven myth, and that's just how most legends work. One of those ones that really works in that sense, in my opinion.
I do think Carl benefits from the open-ended type of narrative. It's just some other things I don't think so. But yeah, Carl is definitely an example of that being done well.
Yeah.
That and probably like error cubes.
Yeah, I mean, error cubes, it's like, because of what they are, it's like the answer would never like formulate. There's no way to represent that in game really either. And we do know a little bit. We do just know they're artifacts from like an ancient race or something. But
Do we know that?
I think I always forget where I
that
read
is
that.
Pure. Yeah, is pure like Reddit theory turned fact due to time. I think that is. There is nothing even like mentioned about it. Like in game, it's just error, and like apparently you can use 5 of them and then he like forgets it. That's like the only thing that really we have to run.
The thing is, though, the error
cubes.
cubes is something that's very physical in game that doesn't have a use yet, and it's constantly being teased. That's the thing with error cubes. Well, that's not necessarily we need to know exactly what they are. But
I think they need to use them, not inherently explain them. I think for error cubes.
I think the only reason that they don't want... So, you might agree, you might disagree with this, I might disagree with this, but it's like, maybe the reason they don't want to do that is because that stops there being a mystery for new people.
Yes,
and that's
there are
it's just meant to play the role of a mystery.
There are plenty of other mysteries in the game, but you don't normally have that tallied at the top next to all your minerals, right?
Yeah,
it's a bit of a weird thing to be in a game. Like, not many other games have a completely useless feature just sitting there pretending to be a normal one, right? Like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah,
I like it, but it could do with being useful.
Ripe for a season theme, one might say. Mini meals on missions. No plans. If they wanted to do something with them, they probably would have, but hey, never say never. Yeah, it's not particularly needed. That would have... I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe yes. Not sure.
Maybe, replace them with satchel charges, or the opposite way around, rather. Replace
yeah,
satchel charges with
I
them,
don't disagree with that, but that's not a suggestion. I think if someone who wants to play that mission, which, if I'm being honest, would actually be a really smart and kind of cool thing. Maybe they should just do that. But I don't know what that mission would be. What they're doing with the mini meals. And it's just a bit weird. They don't need. They're in the salvage operation mission. That's where they are. Big meal though. Big meal. They do something with that. More rockpox infected creatures. Possible. We haven't decided what's going in season 4 yet, and they won't be talking about it if they had. Yeah, but we kind of know that, and that's also true. They could have by now. And I think
it is
what.
It does lightly imply that if they decide that they're doing a Rockbox Part 2, that they would end up adding more Rockbox.
That's what I was about to say. If we do get a sequel season, there'll be more of them because, to be fair, in season 2 we just got the Nemesis, but that was still new. If it's on the level of that, then it'll be a new sort of mini boss. If it's on the level of that, but it could be on the level of that, but in the form of multiple. Either way, if we get a sequel season, there'll be more Rockbox enemies, I'm sure.
Although, obviously, the actual question says creatures multiple, and I agree with that. I'm not sure if they'll hook on, but yeah, could do with more than one creature added to the Rockbox. There's not the same foundation as the robots had. There's a lot more room to be had in more of them.
If perfect selection would be like, if that's what they focused on, it'd be like, I don't know, Shellback, Warden, AMAC Terror, and a boss. That's my head. Yeah, that's what's in my head.
Boss tier, big tier kind of.
Because I don't know why Shellback is up there for me.
Yeah, I put Shellback pretty high up, and I put like Maggot as well in my video.
Yeah, Maggot. Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah. Okay, and a similar one, suggestion, more dreadnoughts or new bugs. No plans for the near future. There should be a bug in the board game that's not in the video game, actually. Well, can we get that guy eventually? And I assume they're taking this question in the sense of just more default enemies. And I think no plans for near future implies that, well, they haven't ruled it out, basically.
It implies that, like, even if season 4 isn't Rockpox, they're still probably not going to add normal enemies. Yeah.
It's also possible they're answering more on the more Dreadnoughts part. Obviously, I'd like to see a Rockpox Dreadnought, but if they are answering more that part, then it's sort of like, yeah, well, we're happy with elimination. That might be the answer.
In an incredibly good place.
It is. It's fine. They don't need to touch that at the moment, compared to other things. Okay. Suggestion: Lovecraftian horror monsters and/or bosses. They haven't talked about future content at all yet.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
they still haven't, and this was like almost a month ago. So yeah, it's nothing new.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I believe that. I don't. They would be talking about new content. I think that's just a given. But obviously, it doesn't mean plans are well drawn up yet. And that doesn't really mean anything in relation to the actual question. So it's like, who knows? We might get Lovecraftian nightmares eventually. I don't know if Tyler would like that, given those things from Borderlands. Didn't like those. What? Well, that's what it would be. Something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and like Hermaeus Mora kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know generally the Lovecraftian feel, and I'm fucking down for it as hell.
Yeah.
Games should do more horror stuff, and I think Lovecraftian would fit in a space game.
Suggestion: Van Helsing crossbow skin. Have we seen the Van Helsing? Have we seen Van Helsing? The crossbow there is very different. Well, let's have a look. Obviously, it's weird because it's like a specific look for something.
Yeah, crossbow. Yeah.
But it's just like if it fit into like a framework that they were to add, and it would.
Is the Van Helsing crossbow a repeating crossbow?
I think it is.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I think the point is, but design-wise, though, this would fit like a steampunk like framework would probably just look like this on the crossbow. So that's how that would come into fruition. They wouldn't do a direct like reference skin that just exists on its own. It would be part of a framework if that would ever happen.
Which really, as far as like
though.
frameworks go, like for our like actual like head canons, steampunk just is necessary and it's just gonna occur, but they just need to kind of hurry up. Because steampunk is just such a strong visual style that they need to get over and done with.
For armor and frameworks.
Slap some cogs on that bad boy, job done.
Some cogs and metal plating. Somewhere between dieselpunk and steampunk would be great. Yeah. Suggestion: change the colour of the elf suit. No plans to do that. Not very Christmassy of us to suggest that. Okay. Thanks, guys. It's fine.
Right.
It's fine in a sense. If I were to be able to believe that didn't take effort, because I believe it probably did take a certain amount of effort to make that costume, and it would be more worth the effort if they let people customize it more. I think it's a pretty simple equation. I don't care if it's a joke.
Who gives a shit about that? The next question, somebody actually asked the real questions.
Blue hair, cannot confirm. That's what we call a cheeky answer.
Fuck you.
That's what
Just
we
add
call
blue hair.
That's what we call blue hair. If it's not in season 4, they're doing it on purpose. That's what we call that.
Literally, like, I don't even, like, I'm not going to use it on anything other than one scout build, but it just pisses me off that I can't do that. It should just be a given. Blue is one of the main characters, like colours. Like, you got fucking blue, yellow, red, and green. And you got 2 greens, fucking 1 red, yellow, I guess, blonde, and you even got like ginger, which you could argue is still kind of Driller's color, being brown, but like, and you got fucking nothing for Scout, no blue hair, nothing, and you can't use the argument that like they don't like weird colors like that because they got the fucking purple hair, which
Well,
looks
obviously,
ass and is never usable, and it's ridiculous. There is no good reason why blue hair isn't in the game other than the fact that they just decided to not add it, and now someone has actually posited them the blue hair and they have nothing to say back because there is no argument
seen
to
this?
have. No, I haven't.
You've
Is that
seen it?
just some guy just no, I haven't just gone through and just added actual colors to hair, because yeah, they look nice as hell.
I like that. I like slate.
Yeah, it's like pretty nice.
Khaki. See, this also, some of these are more, like, much closer to the actual class colours too. Like Scarlet, that's very Engineer red. Amber's very Driller yellow. That's very Gunner green. That's very Scout blue.
Yeah, like the, yeah, no, that's, I mean, I assume they can even see it, but like, they
couldn't see all of it. I didn't want to have to move what was shown.
Yeah.
They saw about half on the screen. Yeah.
Alright.
Come on, guys.
Point is, yeah, blue hair. They know they should add blue hair, but they just haven't yet.
Your blue skin.
Yeah.
Blue or green skin as well, and yellow skin. No red skin. No red skin.
No red skin. There should be red skin. It should be burnt skin.
Yeah.
And it should just be sunburns like everywhere.
It should be like white hot, like glowing red. New classes, no plans for new classes. Honestly, a weirdly unpermanent answer.
No.
I know.
It's no.
It's not like
It's always no. It's always fuck off. It's always stop asking. They're not adding new classes, at least not before like a lot of other things. Like they said it once, I'm pretty sure, right? That they would rather and will add another set of guns before they add new classes, and we're probably not going to see another set of guns for a while. So,
if I'm being perfectly honest, I think I'd actually rather they go for new classes before new guns. Only because it's more possible before they add new guns again. That's essentially the main reason. And what I mean is, if they ever do it, they're only making it harder by waiting till after they add more weapons. So.
Yeah, but like I realize now that the new class urge comes from so many things. Like I always just kind of assumed it's because people wanted more utility and mobility, because that's really the only real thing new classes provide. But I realize obviously a new entire set of guns for a character would be pretty cool, because it would have like a different feel to them generally. But also I realize that people probably just want to level up a different class as well, like have someone else to get to Legendary 3.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
I do see the new classes desire just comes from the culmination of so many other areas where they're lacking in providing towards people.
It would just take so long, and it would make everything else take long as well, because there'd be so many more frameworks as well.
Yeah,
like
a
the
new
frameworks
class
thing
would take them like over a year to make.
Yeah, and I personally do think that just having one extra would be weird as well in a game that's like 4 like players.
Yeah.
But I also think if they do new classes, it should be 2. That's the thing. I know that's more unreasonable.
Yeah, that would literally, yeah. And a new class, it would just take so long, and it's only going to take longer the more time passes.
Like, for example, I think, you know, if they didn't have to do all that stuff with the frameworks and whatnot, they could probably pump out 2 in a year if it's the only thing they did.
Yeah, but even then, like, not really. Because, like, I mean, I can't imagine 2 new classes and what, like they would have to come up with so
them already knowing
guns.
what's going to be in it. It would take them. They already know exactly what all the weapons are going to be, what they're going to look like, what all the arms are going to look like, and it would take a full year.
They fit into the class like system dynamic, like not to mention just like their new class trying to slot them in to the current thing would be very difficult.
Do you think?
It would be a very
I want to ask this. Do you think it would be acceptable if they added a couple, like 2 new classes, but they they only had one set of weapons starting off, and those would be added over time.
Yeah, but that
you
would
don't
feel
think they would
really
want?
weird.
It would feel weird. I would like that. I think that would. I think people would still generally be satisfied, especially with how forgiving they are.
Yeah,
I don't
but
think
then
Ghost
at
Ship
that
would
point,
like it though. I don't. These are incomplete.
Yeah, at that point, you might as well have just added alternate traversal and fucking utility to each of the classes, because that's basically all you've done at that point. You've added a couple new guns and a couple new traversal and mobility. That's all they've really added to the game.
I mean, that's a lot,
with the new
Tyler. That would
classes.
do a lot, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I know, but my point is that like they've added 2 new classes, but they're not even fully done. They're not fully part of the game. They're not fully integrated. They're not at the same level as the old 4.
Well, you know what they
and
say,
they could have
Tyler?
gotten the same thing done by just doing alternate mobility and utility.
You know, when you point out a problem, you need to offer a solution. Someone's already done it, though. Suggestion: subclasses. The response to which is that they haven't thought on. Well, they have no thoughts on that. They want the classes to be pretty predictable in what they do. Once again, possibly old logic. Either way, the subclass idea, them not inherently ruling it off. I feel like no thoughts on that is a response of thoughts.
On that is that we've not heard of that before.
Yeah, and they should absolutely take it into account, because it presents a lot of ways for them to work around and implement things that people want to see, but they don't necessarily see them being able to implement in the current state of the game. Which is why the subclass idea should be seriously considered, because it's the thing that will allow them to add new traversal and support tools. That's why they need to consider it.
Yeah, and while I don't want them to restrict which one you would then be able to use with the other, like if they added new utility and mobility, I wish you'd be able to like pick the classic utility and then the new.
Well, that's the
mobility.
compromise, isn't it? Because the subclasses that they represent the pair, and it would change. It would be like, you know, and I think the way that should be, if they ever do that, the way it should be would be like, it probably wouldn't change your icon, but it would change the word and sort of like the border. I think it would still be like recognizable. Like driller would change, the word would change to demolitionist, and the border would be orange, something like that. You know?
Yeah, it would be something like that, because really, the driller, you can't really do much with these.
Yeah, and scout would become like aviator, and the border would be like navy. You know? Yeah,
just slight like tinkering, and then maybe, I don't know, engineers alternate would be a bit more magically inclined. Some shit.
It would be
that.
like a warlock or a scientist, and it'd be
alchemist.
You know, a purple, slightly, you know, more like burgundy maybe, and like I don't know what gunner would be.
Oh, yeah, gunners would be difficult since it's still just gunner.
Gunner would be big fat idiot.
Avenger or something.
Hold on, I'm trying to remember what my ideas were. So warlock, aviator, demolitionist, hunter, which doesn't quite work for gunner. Either way, still, Ghost Ship is something to look into. It's something that will give you a lot of work to do, maybe, which is actually, I think, is a good idea. Which I think maybe we need to give me problems, give me work. Either way, that is the last thing on the list. So if you have nothing more to say, we can actually wrap this up.
A half month, so a lot less. It's not really half month. It was only really 1 week of streaming they didn't do.
So what? If you went from 16, no, I can't. Hold on, 16. That's the Friday, isn't it? Yeah. So 15 plus 7. That's the 22nd. Plus 7 again is the 29th. If there wasn't Christmas, there would have been another one. Another 2, actually, to be fair. Another 2 weeks of streams.
Alright. Well, yeah, there wasn't that, so this is all we got. I don't say anything inherently new brought up. Other than obviously some more reassurance of perks or a perk system.
I will say,
nothing
new that I thought was like bad. There are some things that haven't changed that I think should, but there are also some things that have changed that are good, like mainly the Overclocks thing, actually. And what was the other thing? I felt like there was something else that was like pretty decent. maybe not. Maybe not.
I don't know. Rocket.
What? Froghat. Yeah,
Froghat.
Froghat. Sure.
Yeah. Thank you for watching.
Some good suggestions, by the way.
This was our video.
This was a video, actually. It was. It absolutely was a video that we did, and that you are watching with your eyes and eating with your ears.
And probably with your mouth.
If that guy, first of all, thanks to the guy who puts this paper together. If he is watching, we would still like to talk to you. Like to have a word. Like to have... Not in that sense. And also, obviously, if you enjoyed this, thank you.
Yeah. Au revoir.
Yeah, goodbye, guys.